Stephen O'Brien, the emergency relief coordinator for the UN, voiced his continuing worries about the humanitarian situation unfolding across Yemen, where more than 3,260 people have been killed and nearly 1.3 million people have been displaced since March. He noted reports in recent days of attacks on a kindergarten housing refugees in Aden, markets in Laj, Amran, and Hajjah, and firing of rockets at civilian neighborhoods in Aden. If these reports are verified, they give an indication of a clear disregard for human lives by the parties to this conflict and the emptiness of statements of concern. Mr. O'Brien calls on all parties to agree to an immediate and unconditional humanitarian pause across the country. Civilians must be allowed to move to safer areas without fear of attack, and humanitarian agencies must have safe and unhindered access so that they can treat the wounded, deliver life-saving treatment and supplies, and in any areas where fighting is ongoing. He added that without full, immediate, and unimpeded access to ports and sufficient funding, aid agencies cannot provide the critical help that tens of millions of people need. And that statement is online. And we also issued a statement yesterday afternoon on behalf of the Secretary General condemning the recent and violent attacks by Boko Haram against civilians in Nigeria and some neighboring countries. And on Gaza, Pierre Kreinbuhl, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency, said that 1 year after the devastating Gaza conflict that claimed more than 1,500 civilian lives, the root causes of the conflict remain unaddressed. He said that 315 days after the ceasefire took effect, not a single totally destroyed house, of which there are over 12,000, has been rebuilt. This leaves some 120,000 people homeless, coming in addition to the high level of youth unemployment and lack of prospect for Gaza's youth. This situation represents a time bomb for the region, said the Commissioner General. Mr. Kreinbuhl called for a lifting of the blockade, ensuring rights and security for all, allowing increased exports from Gaza to stimulate economic recovery, and freedom of movement for civilians. While some steps have been taken in recent weeks, he said, they fall far short of what is needed to bring about fundamental change in the lives of the population. His full statement is available on the UNRWA website.
There are reports coming from Hadramaut, governorate in Yemen, that 350 soldiers, 100 at least of them, perished after attack by Saudi Air Force by mistake, as mentioned. Others say that it was a mutiny against Hadi. Do you have any statement on that? And what's happened regarding truce or a pause in fighting for the rest of the Ramadan?
Well, I think, as you can see, as we all can see, and as most unfortunately the civilians trapped in this conflict can see, we have yet to see a humanitarian pause. We've yet to see a cessation of the violence. I think I would refer you to the very strong words of the UN humanitarian coordinator, Mr. O'Brien, who underscores the continuing suffering of the Yemeni people, and again calls on all the parties to declare a unilateral humanitarian pause. On the first part of your question, I have no specific information on that incident.